Welcome to the Creation Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth King. Together, we'll have conversations with incredible human beings who have taken their creative outlet and turned it into something innovative. From people leaving the corporate world to be 8-figure entrepreneurs to people who have created books, created a family, or just creating to have fun in the world. We are all in a journey to create something amazing in our lives, and I hope that you find some inspiration of your own here. This is the Creation Innovation Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Creation Innovation. I am so happy to have my friend Michelle Oravitz here today to talk about her business and her brand new book, which I am so excited to have you. First of all, welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for having me on, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
This is your second time on now that I think about it, which is, I think you might be the first two-time guest,
Ooh, that's
actually.
exciting.
Yeah, which is a first. So tell our audience all about your book, first of all, because I'm so excited. I want to know about it. Please dish.
Yes. Well, it's a very exciting little project, my first book ever. I've written a book before, never published it. It was something that I was excited about. And of course, I do fertility acupuncture specializing in fertility. So I work in the world of fertility, but naturally I've very much in line with the energetics and the spirituality and the aspect, and which is one of the reasons why I was so drawn into Chinese medicine, because it looks at health really as a reflection of so many different parts of us that come together as a whole. And it considers the spirit of the person, it considers the spirit of the organ. So it looks on a different energetics level, and it acknowledges it too, which I feel like in mainstream we don't really acknowledge the spirit and kind of where everything manifests from or comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found, and this is one of the reasons I went into hypnotherapy as well, is that if there are such deep-seated beliefs and there's certain, the issue's not really a physical issue, there's something
Right.
that's coming from somewhere else and it's manifesting physically. And if you don't address that, then it doesn't matter what you do physically. It doesn't matter what kind of food you eat. It doesn't matter.
Right.
All of that stuff is a Band-Aid. It's just not, it's working on the branches, not the root. So the branches may not be able to bloom, and that could be a root thing, not so much something from the branches. Yes, it'll help to trim the branches and care for them, but if you're not addressing the root, which is really our energetics and our way of being, then it's not going to really impact the physical. So the book really talks about a lot of what ancient wisdom, which is really the basis of ancient medicine, because Chinese medicine, for example, is very much rooted in Taoism. You look at Ayurvedic medicine, also very much rooted in the Vedas and the wisdom and the traditions that have been taught, and very, very similar, both of them, because they look at really going within, and they also look at the basics of nature and how nature always wants to thrive and it's always seeking to thrive. And you'll see that it always thrives, even through the cracks of man-made cement. You'll see beautiful plants coming through and figuring out a way. And that's typically how our bodies do. Now, it's not easy if we stack too much against it. It makes it a little harder. And that's where, Chinese medicine helps, because we try to get that balance. But ultimately, it's really understanding our nature and that our bodies want to reproduce. That is, they are hardwired to do so. And also that ancient wisdom, a lot of what it has always taught us is to go within. And that is because we are hardwired to know within ourselves and to be connected to that intelligence that will always assist us towards vitality. So that was really the basis of the book. And then I talk a lot about the energetics and lots of ancient wisdom and how you can apply it, very actionable, so that it's not just okay, that's great, but what do I do with this?
Right. Which I think is so beautiful, because I'm sure people come to you as well, same for me, where they're like, I've done everything. I've
Yeah.
checked every box
Hmm.
and it's still not working. And similar for however long we've known each other now, I feel like everything that you talk about, we're very aligned on all aspects of. Yes, we acknowledge kind of the medical side of it, right? We can't leave that out. But there's this huge other portion of spirituality that plays a role in all things, but obviously we focus on fertility. So the fact that you continue to bring that into your practice of acupuncture and fertility and helping people through this fills me up so much because I'm like, yes, somebody is speaking my language 1,000%. And the more that we have people out there speaking in this way, to have others understand that there's so much more to it, right? It might not be your issue. And when I say that to people, sometimes they're like, what do you mean? It could be from my grandmother or, whatever. And clearing those blocks and understanding, like you say, the nature and what that all is, and the Vedics and Taoism and stuff, like that's so my jam, all of those things, because it's we are so different as well, right? So we're not cookie cutter, and the energetics of everybody's individual, not only themselves, but their ancestry, their lineage comes to play in all of this. So how do you broach people when they're like, okay, doctor, I've been doing all the things, I've checked all the boxes. Maybe they've been working with you from the acupuncture perspective for a while. How do you like start to dive into those types of conversations to get people to understand this ancient wisdom and everything?
Sometimes it's actually about doing less.
Mhm.
And that's, it's like the doing too much. And there's that yin and yang. And that's really where it all comes down to that. And I talk a lot about that in the book is that, yes, doing has its place. The yang, which is the doing, the active, the heat, all of that
Right.
has a place, but so does also allowing, receiving, being receptive. That also has a place.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's really about stepping back and figuring out, or kind of like watching yourself and becoming more aware, like, where am I doing too much? How am I feeling in this moment right now? Like, am
Right.
I feeling off? And
Mhm.
when we ignore that and just focus on the goal, we're missing a huge foundation here.
Right.
We're not paying attention to our own well-being. We're totally dismissing that aspect of it as if it doesn't even exist and doesn't even need to exist. And that's where I really highlight in this book. It's all about, and also to my patients, in general, like, it's really about awareness. Awareness, I always say, is your superpower. If you sit in your awareness will always show you the things that you need to see. And it always does. It's just a matter of, like, are you paying attention?
Right.
It's always there. Like, the body's always telling you.
That is so true. I recently was doing a meditation not too long ago, and it came up that my I needed to strengthen my yin. Well, yin and yang is not something that I really talk about on a daily basis. So the fact that that came in for me as a meditation, and not only that, but that I needed to go to acupuncture 5 sessions. It was super clear to me. So again, I don't do acupuncture on a regular basis, only if like I need some help with something. So I went to my acupuncturist and said, I got this download in meditation. She's like, well, that's very specific. I'm like, I know, I don't know. Can you look into that? And following that for me, she was saying, based on what she tested with my pulse and my tongue and all the things, that yeah, it was that was true. And I did need to strengthen that. And I took some herbs to do that and went to 5 sessions and really did feel so much better. And I think, like you say, it's already within us. We just need to
Mhm.
listen. We may
Yeah,
not know what that means or what that translates to. Like, I didn't know. I just knew, okay, who do I know that knows about yin? My acupuncturist. Let's go there, right?
that's so
Um,
cool.
yeah. So I think the more that just, and meditation itself is not for everybody, but just being quiet with yourself helps you to tune into what your body needs. And I think often on these fertility journeys specifically, too, we get so much information at us, whether they're taking that from social media or their doctor or whatever. It's like, take a minute to tune into yourself and
Mhm.
see what's coming up for you. right? Is it a
Yeah.
physical issue? Is it a mental subconscious block? Who can help you to work through some of those things? And it might not be an overnight, and it might not be as clear as my message that I got, but the more you tune into that, the more clear it will be, I think.
100%. I love that you mention this because it really is that when you sit in meditation, you allow that receptivity, you can hear it. And there's this saying, prayer is talking, meditation is listening.
Mhm.
When you allow yourself that listening, that's already a yin state. You're receiving. And the egg is yin, it's receiving. It's receiving in the sperm. I mean, so this is an aspect of us that is an energetic aspect that needs to be there. It's part of it all. And so when you're allowing yourself to do that, and I am, I guess, a purist with meditation. I do believe that it is eventually for everybody. That being said, sometimes we need steps in order to get into it because it's not always easy for
Right.
everybody to fully get into. So sometimes it could be starting out just being aware and so maybe walking in awareness and things like that. But eventually, meditation is such an amazing tool to get into that yin state and to also connect with that divine intelligence that really like empowers our body, like powers our body. And so it's such a great tool that I would say, even if you think it's not for you, like maybe ease into it or give it a chance. Because one of the things, and they call them, what do they call them? Like deterrents, almost like that come up through meditations or disturbances. And one of them are thoughts that will convince you not to keep going. And those thoughts that commonly come out are, this isn't for me. I'm not meant for meditation.
For sure. And I say that lightly in the fact that people get frustrated, right? They're like, I can't control my thoughts, not having them, so this isn't for me, right?
Yep.
And to your point, that can look different for everybody. You can go on a walking meditation, right? Just being quiet. There's a lot of different avenues to start to get into that, and I agree with you. I think I was the same way. I did my first silent retreat. I was like, this is not
No,
for me
it's
at
not
all. What am
comfortable.
I doing here? And then
Yeah.
by the end, I was like, this has changed my life. This is amazing. But I think to kind of what you're saying is don't give up on it. And that's also what I would say, right? I think a lot of
Yeah.
people sit down and think, oh, this isn't for me. I can't even focus for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If 60 seconds is your starting point, great. If going for a
Yes.
silent walk is what you need to do to start to listen, great. But find the different avenues that can get you there. Some people say swimming is their meditation, right? They're
Yeah.
quiet, they're focused, they're listening to their mind of what messages are coming to them. So it can look different ways, not just the traditional way that we all think of, the monk sitting on the mountain meditating, right? So be open and curious to
Yes.
other ways that you can lean into that a little bit.
And it's a
Uh,
medicine. Sometimes
oh, for
for
sure.
some people, like probiotics can cause major symptoms. So like I always go easy, like with some
Mhm.
people, you just have to go little by little. And
Yeah.
it's too much of that medicine is too much for their like nervous system. So you got to ease into it for some people.
Right. And to the point of being medicine, there are so many studies that have shown the power of meditation and how it helps to heal bodies in all kinds of ways. And I'm such a data-driven person that I love to show people that. It's not just, again, the monk on the hill that's telling us that it's good for you. Really is. They have done studies to show how healing it is for the body in lots of different avenues. So, what was the favorite part of your book? Because and that might be a hard question to answer, like what's, a favorite child, which I would never say is even possible. But do you
Yeah.
have a favorite part of your book?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a favorite part, but I guess like the message that might be the favorite is love because
Mm,
love is so life-giving and our cells really respond to our thoughts about ourselves and like what we say to ourselves. And I think right now in this world that we're living in, for some reason, it's become normal to criticize yourself in
Mm-hmm.
the way that we are. And that's not okay. It's just not, it's abusive, like to ourselves, to our physical
For sure.
energetics. And so I talk about my own story of how I went through my own self-criticism and how my body really, it's like the reverberation of that and how it
Mm-hmm.
impacts your uterus, your womb, like all the different things in your body really do respond, the mechanisms and how it functions, and how love is so vital for early development of children. They know
Mm-hmm.
that if you don't have love, it's going to impact how you thrive. So I guess like this one quote that I said, if it takes love to sustain early life, what makes you think that you don't need love in order to conceive?
Hmm. Right. That's awesome. Could not agree with you more. And it concerns me so much about these kids now, right? I mean, for our generation, we didn't have social media, so that wasn't really a thing, and we still struggled with, self-love and all the things comparing to magazines or wherever you were in the world or whatnot. And now,
Yeah.
this it's kind of in these kids' face all the time of their of what they have in their own mind. And so for me and my story as well, that body image, self-image issue was always a thing.
Yeah.
It's a lineage thing for my family. So in order to feel part of my tribe, which was my family, I felt I needed to also have that self-loathing and self-hatred and whatever, right? And even if it wasn't me, and so I think looking at that, and you pointing out that is so powerful, because it it is, again, just a practice of recognizing, taking the minute to say, I love you. I love you.
Hmm.
I love you. I love you. I love you, to yourself. And if you can't get to that point where you really believe that, because I've been there at times in my life where I could say those words, but I would not believe that.
Hmm.
Find somebody to help you get there,
Yeah.
because you do need to get through that barrier of recognizing what that is, and have somebody hold the space for you when you're not able to, because
That's
as you say,
very
we
true.
need that to sustain life. We need that to create life. We need
Yeah.
that love for all things. So I'm glad I asked you that question, because that is so beautiful. And what do you want the biggest takeaway from people to take from your book after they read that?
I think it's really the same message that I just feel so strongly about in general, and especially for women, is that you are so much more powerful than you've been told and led to
Mhm.
believe. And I think that this is humanity in general. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping that maybe we're going to shift something soon, because there's a lot of studies that are coming out just showing how powerful we are in our minds. And I feel like just mainstream in the world today is dumbing us down.
Mhm.
And I just want people to realize, and also the messages that they get, these kind of like limited beliefs, that people say, oh, I have limited beliefs. Where does that come from? It doesn't come from a vacuum. It's coming from all the things that you're hearing from these authority figures. You can't do this, you're a statistic, you're this number, this won't
Mhm.
happen for you.
Right.
I went online and I actually Googled this, and then I got really intrigued. But the Guinness Book of World Records, the oldest woman to conceive naturally, and this wasn't a long time ago, it was 58, and have a baby, healthy baby.
Wow.
So yeah. And then there's this whole, I forget the
Did it
name, I
say
should
where
have.
she was?
She was in England, of all
Okay.
places, where the vitamin D is pretty low. There's not a lot of sun. So, like, I believe it was England. I could be wrong, but I think it was England. And Dawn Brooks was the name. And and so basically, there's this like whole phenomenon of, and I forget the name of it, but there's like this something effect where I think it was in the 1970s. They said nobody can ever bypass the 4-minute mile. Nobody can ever break
Oh,
that
right.
for running. And so
Right.
one guy breaks it in 1970s, and they said it was a physical impossibility and it's never happened before, right?
Right.
It was like years they talked about this and nobody ever broke it. One guy breaks it within a month, there were four other people break it.
Right.
Like
I
it's
love those
that.
examples.
Yeah. So what does that tell you? It tells you that just our belief itself is way more powerful than what they say are the physical parameters around it. And
Right.
so I just want you to realize the possibilities are endless and you have the power to make that decision. And I've
Mhm.
seen women being told really, really very limiting things about what they can do and what their bodies can do, and they felt very strongly otherwise, and they bypassed and kind of like totally challenged that whole concept and made it different in their life. Like I ended up having two kids. One woman that was told she was getting into menopause after all of that and that she needed donor eggs ended up having two kids naturally with her own eggs, full term healthy pregnancies.
Yeah.
So, stories like that, you're just like, okay, you are way more powerful. So that's the message.
Yes. And you have that ancient wisdom within you, right? So tap into that, and as you say, you give tools to help people to learn how to do that. I agree. That's my story too. I was 3 babies over 40 and told you need to use donor eggs. I went to another doctor because I'm like, nope, I don't think so. I mean, I
Yep.
think that's an amazing option for people. I just had this knowing that
Right.
wasn't my thing. And yes, went on to have 2 more healthy babies naturally over 40. And people recently, it's funny, I've had 2 people ask me, well, are your children healthy though? Because again, we
There's
have
the
this
doubt.
social stigma of if you have a child over 35, they're going to have Down syndrome or they're going to have something wrong with them, right? And my kids are very healthy, knock on wood.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God. And, I think that just not buying into that societal belief and trusting your body. I knew that I was doing all the right things. I knew that I was priming my body with the right supplements and diet and mindset. I wasn't buying into it. So much so that I actually thought I was 18 months younger than I was when I gave birth to my last child at 44. I just
Amazing.
my we were at the doctor one day and I was writing down my age and my husband's like, "You're not 42." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm not
Yeah, I
42."
love it. I
I
love
was
that.
literally
That's
like didn't
awesome.
even and he's like, "Not only are you not 42, you're almost 44." I was like, "Oh my goodness." Like that's how much I just wasn't buying into it.
Yeah,
That I remember the doctor saying too, "Oh, this hospital has a lot of geriatric patients." And I was like, "Okay, good. Like what does that have to do with me?" Only to realize, "Oh my gosh, he's talking about geriatric moms delivering there," right? It just was
so
not
crazy
in
to
my
me that whole term.
mindset. And I think the mindset, the power of our beliefs, the power of our thoughts is amazing, and we don't give ourselves enough credit for that. And that's where I say, yes, the blessing and the curse of social media within fertility is you see a lot of social evidence of great things, but you also see a lot of social evidence of things that don't need to be your story.
Hmm.
So find who you want to align with and what feels right to you, and then shut it all down. Don't watch the rest of it. Don't listen to the rest of it. Know that you have that wisdom within you. As Michelle said, your body knows what to do. It's pre-programmed for that. Find your fertility team to help you get to the outcome of what it is that you need. So, where can people find you and work with you? I wish you were closer so we could actually hang out in person, but
I
tell
know.
everybody where you are, what you do, and where they can find you online.
So yeah, so I work in person and I also work online, fertility coaching, where I basically work with all the information that I use for
Yes.
in person. And so I'm in Florida, South Florida, Miami Beach, and obviously you can find me online at my michelleoravitz.com or at the Wholesome Lotus Fertility, which is my Instagram handle. And I'm always on there as yeah, we always connect there.
Yes.
And then also I have a fertility podcast talking about fertility wellness and lots of different things from supplements to mindset to, just all of it. And that is the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. And the book is either coming out or going to be out end of April. So depending on when this comes out. And I'm very excited about that. It's the Way of Fertility.
I am so excited about it too. And Michelle's content is so beautiful. If you're
Thank you.
listening, please follow her, find her, connect with her, work with her. Everything that she has about her aura is beautiful, and the messages that she sends out and just the healing energy around her is phenomenal. So I am also so excited about your book. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I can't wait for our paths to cross and your book to come out to the rest of the world.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for your kind words. And I really feel the same way about you. And I appreciate our conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Creation Innovation Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Spotify for free episodes and subscribe to the Creation Innovation Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you choose to get your podcast. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening for a chance to receive a special gift. Yes, we actually do send out gifts. It's my favorite thing to do. So visit us at elizabethking.com/creation innovation for more information on how to enter. Every review counts, and we are so grateful. You can follow me at the official Elizabeth King on Instagram or TikTok. Until next time.